Hi guys, my name is Renee and I am a good enough mom. I love sharing tips and tricks to make my life simpler and easier as a mom. And at the moment I'm also enjoying sharing some of the projects that we've got going on around our house. So let's get started.
Okay, so before I get started on today's special recipe, I just have to boast a little bit. My son and I were planning to do this video together, but before we could get started I had a few things to do. So I set up the camera and asked my 10-year-old to set up all the ingredients and the preparation surface for the video. And this is what he came up with. I think it looks amazing. The setup looks just like a really professional food YouTube channel. I am super impressed with him. One of the things that we learned during our homeschool day is about a different country, and at the moment we are busy learning about France. France seems to have all sorts of delicious traditional baked foods and desserts, but we thought we should also try something more healthy. So this week we're making ratatouille. Seeing as I've got children, the only healthy French food that they know of was from the movie Ratatouille. First you need to chop up all the vegetables quite roughly, and then you make a marinade. Ratatouille has many different cooking methods, but generally has the same ingredients: tomatoes, garlic, onion, courgettes or zucchinis, aubergines or eggplants. I did find it very interesting that there aren't really any starchy vegetables in it. Next you make the marinade by whisking all the ingredients together. I'll admit that the recipe we used was not very French, seeing as it's actually a Jamie Oliver recipe. So I'll put a link down to his page in the description below. And then you mix the marinade with the vegetables to make sure that they're covered very well. The method that we used was to roast the vegetables for 45 minutes to an hour. This was an absolutely superb meal. It is kind of like super flavorful roast vegetables, and we'll definitely be making this traditional French food again.
So this year we have started having a stall at our community market. Initially we did it to sell some of our clutter, seeing as we're moving soon. But there are some things that can't possibly be sold as they are, like these torn or stained net curtains. Yet it feels like such a waste just to throw them away. So in order to reduce the amount of waste our family makes, I'm trying to repurpose as much of it as possible. And I'm going to make dress-up skirts for girls from these net curtains. My girls have a skirt similar to the ones that I'm making, and they love to pretend that they're going to a ball or getting married, so I'm sure other little girls will love skirts like this too. All I'm doing is tearing the curtains into strips. For those of you who don't know much about sewing, here is a tip for you. When you tear material, it tears much straighter than if you were to cut it with a pair of scissors, and it is a lot faster. Then I gather the strips and sew them together. I put the elastic in at the waist and ta-da! There's the finished skirt. Obviously nowadays you can get super cheap mass-produced skirts like this, so I'll never be able to sell them for a lot of money. But seeing as I got the materials for free and I'm trying to save the world by reducing our waste, I'm not planning to make a lot of money from them, but every bit helps. As I've shared in a previous video, we are hoping to move soon to start a homestead.
and so we'll be renting out the house that we are currently living in. At the moment we are busy fixing up things around the house, and this week's project is to paint the entranceway. To tell you the truth, I love painting rooms. I think as a stay-at-home mom, most of the time it feels like I'm doing the same things over and over again. There's a YouTube channel called Clean, Organize, Repeat, and I think that encapsulates my life. So it's really rewarding to do something that stays done for more than an hour. Once I've painted a room, it stays painted for years and years, quite unlike washing the dishes or cleaning the floor that'll need it to be done again in about half an hour. Now growing up, I don't recall my parents ever painting themselves. Perhaps they did and I just don't remember. But as far as I can recall, we usually got painters to paint whenever needed. So it really took a lot of courage for me to try to paint myself. If I can do this, then I'm sure you will be able to do it too. You don't need to have a painter's degree to be able to paint a wall. You just need to be able to paint within the lines. Obviously, it'll be far better to watch a how-to video from a professional painter if you've never done it before. I'm just pointing out some of the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. So if you've never painted a room before and you would really like to try, then I encourage you to give it a go. And perhaps you'll find it to be as rewarding as I do.
This weekend I was reminded again at how emotionally draining and hard decluttering can be. As I was preparing our foyer for painting, I came across a big pile of my children's old school books. Now I've kept about 4 books for each grade, which doesn't seem like a lot, but after quite a few grades, it was quite a pile of books. So I asked my kids, so do they want to keep their books or not? And both of my older children said, no, they don't need to keep their books. I can throw them all away. Well, I couldn't throw them away. Although I'm not particularly sentimental, it was really hard for me. So I didn't throw all of them away. I decided to keep 1 from each grade and had a look through and chose 1 from each grade. So going through this process, I just realized once again that it is not an easy process. And sometimes, even though we don't think we're attached to something, when we actually have to come to that point of throwing it away, we realize how attached we actually are. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. So now for the real deal. So in the last few videos, I've been sharing with you how we're trying to become minimalist. How we're trying to reduce the amount of clutter I've got lying around, because this really helps me manage my house a bit better if there's just not so much stuff that I have to manage the whole time. Now there is one problem with this process. I love doing all sorts of crafts and being creative and making new things. But now whenever I think, oh, shall I make this or shall I make that? I think, well, do I really need this thing? Don't we have something else that can fulfill this purpose? Am I going to want to manage it in the future? And then it's really dampened my creative spirit of making new stuff. Because why should I paint a painting if I'm not going to be putting it on the wall? What purpose does painting something have if you're not going to use it? And the same with any other crafty thing that I can think of making. So, having a little stall at the market has really encouraged me to start being creative and crafty again, doing things that I love doing, like making the skirts that I showed you in this video. So I'm so glad that we started doing this little stall at the market. It has really encouraged me and given me an outlet where I can do the crafts that I really love doing, but not have to keep those things in my home anymore. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye!